Our next segment is a focus on the Best Book Award, which was won by the Cambridge Handbook of Intercultural Training, 4th edition, published by Cambridge University Press. This was authored by, or edited and authored by Dan Landis and Dharm Bhawuk. And I'm just going to show you the book cover through the screen share. This is a promotional flyer which we received this morning from Dan. He's he's actually our founding member, the person who founded IAIR. And what I'd like to do to honor this book is, first of all, I'd like to actually read the letter of nomination that I sent to the committee. Having read the book and being very impressed, I wanted to nominate it for the Best Book Award, which is awarded every 2 years to the book that's deemed as having the strongest academic contribution, and it must be written by one of our members. Afterwards, I'll make a few extra comments and then move things over to Steve, who actually wrote a chapter for the book, for his reflections on that process. So let me begin. Because I think this letter really says it best in terms of the strengths of the book and why it was chosen for the award. It is my pleasure to nominate the Cambridge Handbook of Intercultural Training, 4th edition, edited by Dan Landis, the founder of IAIR, and Dharm P.S. Bhawuk, for the William B. Goodykunst Outstanding Book Award. I believe this book is the best book in intercultural research written by a member of the Academy between 2019 and 2021, as it satisfies the 3 criteria stipulated for the award. A, the importance of the issues it addresses for intercultural research. B, the strength of the argument and evidence it presents. And C, the originality of the ideas and insights it offers for the advancement of intercultural research. As both a researcher of intercultural communication methods and education, as well as a practitioner, as a university professor and a corporate trainer, it is my conclusion that this book makes a profound contribution to the fields of intercultural training and adult education, as it serves as a compendium of what is known about intercultural training in terms of theory and methodology, thus bridging both theory and practice. It details intercultural training methods that are culture general and culture specific, while also clarifying the field's past and present. Moreover, it forges a cohesive vision for the field's future development and growth, giving both researchers and practitioners an indispensable evidence-based guide for advancing the field. The present book is the culmination of an almost 4-decade endeavor with both scientific and applied dimensions, beginning with the handbook's first edition and continuing through each of its iterations, published in 1983, 1996, 2004, and now 2020. These books literally created the field of intercultural training. In the present volume, the authors begin with a historical tour of the development of the field and then pivot, detailing the current state of theory and practice. Unique to this volume is a peering into the future and a critique focusing on what needs to be done to take the field into the next half century and beyond, in terms of taking the probes provided and carrying them forward with further testing and operationalized theory and practice. The handbook, both in the current and previous editions, has developed in a symbiotic relationship with IAIR's flagship journal, the International Journal of Intercultural Relations, as many frequent contributors to IJIR have authored chapters in this handbook, and likewise, chapters appearing in previous editions of the handbook have served as essential references in an abundance of IJIR papers. I expect that the handbook's 4th edition will also serve as a cornerstone reference in the field, as it is the capstone of this lengthy history and advancement. Moreover, not only is this book an indispensable reference for scholars, but since the contributions are written in an accessible style, they are digestible by the intelligent laypersons such as international managers. Consequently, the book's influence is likely to be felt deeply in organizations that need effective intercultural training. It is quite rare to find a book with such profound implications for both academics and lay people, yet written in a style that is approachable for both. The handbook ambitiously draws together a vast array of diverse yet relevant theories and their applications which impact intercultural training. One set of chapters covers indigenous literature that is useful in developing cultural insights for working in Brazil, Russia, India, China, and Japan. There are also chapters that examine how foundational knowledge in neuroscience, affective science, swarm intelligence, and religious studies influence the processes of intercultural interactions and dialogue. Yet other chapters provide reviews of the literature on intercultural training and related disciplines such as counseling and expatriate management. So you can really see there is something here for everyone, no matter what your professional interests, regional interests, or research interests are. Thus, this volume accomplishes the Leviathan task of fleshing out the theoretical foundations of intercultural training, bringing together rich, informative sources, both from other fields and a wide variety of cultures to supplement current knowledge, and identifying how the field can flourish worldwide, both in terms of research and practical applications. It is a landmark contribution to intercultural training in related fields, which is why Cambridge University Press, a publisher synonymous with excellence, and the world's oldest university press, has published this volume. Based on the aforementioned points, humbly yet without reservations, I would like to nominate the Cambridge Handbook of Intercultural Training, 4th edition, for the prestigious William B. Goody-Kunst Outstanding Book Award. So that was the letter that I used to nominate this book for the award. And just to say in conclusion, as I've already pretty much described in detail an overview of the book and some of the chapters that do appear in each chapter, in each section, particularly as a long-term resident of Japan and somebody who has devoted a lot of my acculturation research to Japan, I was also very much impressed by the chapter written by David Dalsky and Yujun Su on Japanese psychology and intercultural training. They do a wonderful job of taking key psychological concepts and using those to explicate Japanese behavior and also psychology, that it would be very, very useful not only for people doing intercultural training or researching intercultural training related to Japan, but also people who are just interested in learning more about Japan, as they really do take some classical concepts such as amai, Aimai, and so on, and apply them to a modern context and updating the field on Japan-related literature. So thank you very much. It really is a book that is well-deserved in terms of winning this award. And Steve Kulik, our past president, will also just share a few comments about the chapter that he wrote for the volume. Please go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. I have the book here. You know, it really is a big tome, 757 pages, 25 chapters, and, you know, well organized across the 5 main areas. And you've covered that well, Adam, in your overview. So there's not so much I need to say on that. But I think the just knowing both Dan and Bhawuk, we held at Shanghai International Studies University in 2010. Our institute was established in 2006, but we worked with the German Ministry of Education and Research and held a collaborative conference both in Germany to try to involve European-based scholars, and then invited 15 of them to Shanghai. And Dan was one of the keynote speakers talking about the development of the journal and the history of the field. And so that was 2010, and already then, you know, the last edition, the 3rd edition, was 2004. So there was always already a sense of need. And so Dan and I talked about how would this happen, and then working with Bhawuk, and Bhawuk has been teaching with us now for 6 years in Shanghai as well. On his trips back and forth from India, we have him stop over. So it's a great delight to have him a part. But all that to say is that this volume was a long time in the making, as well as moving from the previous press to Cambridge because of different emphases in the publishing industry. There's challenges. So we're very grateful that Cambridge picked it up, but that meant a lot of extra work for both Dan and Bhawuk and the team. Entrusting us with the history was also a challenge. I've been teaching a course since 2004, Intercultural Communication History and Status. because we have a very complicated history, and it is very interdisciplinary. And unfortunately, that chapter didn't contain. We had to stick with just kind of the Western thinking that led to developments in these states where the field was avowed to be founded by Hall, but actually we realized there's a lot before Hall. Rachel Davis Du Bois' intercultural education movement, and several other things and also a very wonderful set of studies that haven't been sussed out yet on intercultural religious dialogue that was very, very active in the 20s and 30s through sociologists. So there's still so much more of the field to be worked on. In fact, Dan asked us for IJR to do a special issue in 2012 on history of some of the founders. And thankfully, we were able to include quite a few people who have since passed on, and others are still with us, and we're very grateful for that. But that was also a selection of about 12 or 13 out of 50 people that we need to have detailed biographies on. So we're still working on that. Actually, for our intercultural research series, which has been published by our press, but now will be published by Peter Lang, volume 11 and 12 will focus on intercultural history. So if any of you are historians, if any of you have worked with a specific university, the University of Minnesota, Fullerton has had a huge impact on the field, the University of Oklahoma, other universities, Howard University, so there's a Pittsburgh. So specific sites where the field has been, a history of the Intercultural Institute, which Adam mentioned is, a loss to us all and the transitions that have been going on. And we're just so grateful for Janet Bennett and Milton Bennett's great contributions over the years, and all those that were involved with the Summer Institute back when it was the Stanford Institute for many years, and then moved to Portland as the SIIC. And so that went through 39 years. There's an incredible history that we would love to have documented there. So if you have history chapters, if you've looked at, and of course the history of Japan, the history of intercultural in Indonesia, the history of intercultural in your part of the world, there's too many things that need to be answered, because we have, unfortunately, a bit too much voice for the American-centric side and not enough of how it actually has changed and changed all of us through other aspects of the world. So that's something that we're really wanting to work on for that extra volume. So please contribute, and you can look at our chapter and critique it, because we had to cut out too much. I've got 3 more chapters, the history of intercultural theorizing, and as I mentioned, specific places. So there's a lot to keep working on. But I think the volume, the other chapters, as I've been reading into too, I've also just been amazed at the quality, the depth. I really like section 5 on moving us forward. How are we integrating interdisciplinary approaches? What are we learning from other fields like neuroscience? And Joseph Shalos has been doing some great work on deep culture in his training. So there's a whole lot more that I think that we can keep building on. Projects in Europe that are looking at standardization and what are the issues that intercultural training really needs to address. So we want to be working with anybody who's dealing with these fields. So intercultural communication, just as Adam said, needs to stay a theory into practice field, and those who are working in practice speaking back to our theory, so that we really are advancing a research paradigm that meets relevant issues. And what Dr. Holm has just showed us, a very challenging and changing world, and also building on Patricia Greenfield's talk earlier. So thank you all for your contributions, and let's use this one and move toward the next volumes, because I think this is one of those volumes that will have a long-term new edition life about every 10 years.
Steve, thank you so much for those wonderful comments. And it was one of the foremost historians in our field. Very much looking forward to seeing the next iteration of your work, including some of that material that there wasn't room for in the handbook. I'm sure it will be a great addition to the literature. We really do need to chronicle what the history is, because unfortunately we are losing some of the giants of our field, people that we studied with or that our teachers learned from. And also we're losing some organizations, the ICI, Intercultural Communication Institute, unfortunately, being one of them. So there is a large void to fill. And that's another reason, Steve, why your work is so important. So thank you very much.